What's up, everyone? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and there's a little bit of bad news going around in the gaming sector at the moment. I'm just gonna read out the details and go over the details of the bad news before I give my thoughts on it. So, for those of you who are probably familiar with the company now at this point, the company Bad Juju has filed for bankruptcy. Now, you may not know Bad Juju, but you would know some of their subsidiary companies, possibly Desura and Indie Royal. So that presents a problem for Desura and Indie Royal. Now, th- here's where it gets really complex. So, Lisa Morrison, who is Bad Juju's head of development relations, has confirmed all this news to Gamasutra, and here's what she had to say about it. I asked Tony Novak. By the way, Tony Novak is the CEO for Bad Juju. I asked Tony Novak for confirmation, and all he could tell me was the lawyers have said I can't say anything or answer any questions. Yes, any questions yet, but yes, it's true. So she went on to ask how this would affect anyone who's bought stuff on Desura at all, and what she was told, what she had to say about it was, no one knows. The trustee has come in, and everything that happens now is in the hands of the courts. They won't let Tony speak about it. So she confirmed on top of this that she had no idea that this was about to happen. Apparently, it was already looking bad. I mean, there was already stories fairly recently about developers working under the umbrella that they haven't been paid and their payments were being delayed and all. Now, according to Bad Juju, this was all to do with the CEO being hospitalized, and none of the stuff could be done until his health was cleared and he was out of the way, or that his health was cleared and all his health issues were out of the way. Now, it's not all bad news. You've got the people over at Humble Bundle, specifically Dave Traeger. I can never pronounce weird looking names like that. So, he's put his hand out to someone who is essentially a former competitor of him, and he said on Twitter, "To everyone affected by the Desura whirlwind, I feel for you. Get in touch and let's talk." So it sounds like he's basically offering, either development positions or some sort of job, or they can work all that out. So it's nice to see someone just straight out going and trying to help out for it anyway. So again, once I was going to call her Melissa, Lisa Morrison just had a quick reply to what he said on Twitter, and she said there's a class act over at Humble. That's at home. I know it sounds weird, but definitely somewhere to look to get your project back up and selling. And then she included a heart. And she continued on to say, it's an honor to be part of an industry where people care so much for others. The support and kind words from devs has me in tears already. So I'm not going to go into my thoughts on it just yet. There's still a little bit more, only a small bit more, that I have to cover just before I can continue on anyway. But Desura was actually only bought by Juju. I think it was roughly about a year ago. I don't remember the exact date, but I do remember reading about it anyway. But it was at some point last year, and it used to be owned by the people who developed Second Life. I can't fully remember their name at the moment. I think it's Linsden's Lab or Liston Lab or Linden. I think it's Linden Lab actually. But yeah, the developers of Second Life anyway. So now what made it even a little bit more interesting was they had only bought Desura, I think it was less than a year beforehand. It was roughly a year beforehand anyway. So I mean, this company has been passed around fairly recently anyway. But there's also a little comment I'm going to throw in that the developer of Vox, Always Geeky, some of them put out their thoughts on a Reddit post, and they suggested that Desura was basically just a casualty, unfortunately, because before Steam Greenlight, and I basically agree with this, but before Steam Greenlight became to exist, everyone was just going to Desura. because that was the place for indie games before before Greenlight happened. And then they went on to say, but between that, Humble Bundle and GOG, or Good Old Games if you want to call it, I just call it GOG, that they just reckon the market had changed too significantly and Desura was essentially no longer relevant. Now, there's one other problem, well, not even problem, but an exact quote again from Always Geeky. They went on to say that at the end of the day, with the increased competition from Steam's new inclusion of indies, Humble Store and other similar platforms, Desura really offered nothing to their clients and players that wasn't done better elsewhere. Once the paying clients start to move away from a platform, it doesn't take long for developers to follow. So that's basically it. A parent company has gone bust and everyone in their portfolio is fucked, basically. Now, we saw there that there's some people have offered insight to why it's happening and why it's going bust, and at the same time, there's other people trying to pick up the slack, if you will. I mean, it seems like the people over at Humble are going to make a significant attempt to, be it just developers or just in general other people looking for jobs that were put out, because it's not all developers. I mean, you've obviously got accountants and managers and project leads, and you've got all that kind of shit. So what are my thoughts on this whole thing anyway? If this just proves to me that this whole digital distribution, fully digital future is still not our future. So, I mean, now, fair enough, it depends on who you ask, but I would always say Desura was maybe the 5th biggest digital distribution service. If you asked me, I would have called them 5th. You've got Steam, and then you've got Origin. I wouldn't really count Uplay 3rd, but the fact that it's owned by Ubisoft, who, while I may not like them, they are a fairly major publisher and development studio conglomerate, if you will. But I would put Desura in around like 4th or 5th anyway. But the guys from Always Geeky do bring up a good point that when everyone else is doing what you're doing better, and the people who are spending the money are going elsewhere, I mean, it's just a snowball effect at that point. More and more people are going to leave. More and more developers are going to see that people who are spending the money are leaving, and then they're going to leave. So eventually it's beyond. It's just an Indiana Jones style boulder just rolling down, and it's fucked. So back onto what I had to say about it real quick anyway, is the reason why I don't think something like this is proof that we're not really ready for our whole digital distribution future at the moment. Look recently at I say recently, but look as far back as 2013. The Xbox One was announced. The whole DRM check-in thing, uproar, massive outrage uproar. Sony obviously had the same thing, but they kept it kind of hush-hush and patched it out day one. But obviously Microsoft have come back and changed their stance on it. But look recently at other games. I think Far Cry 4 on the Xbox One was had a big issue. More recently, just a couple of days ago, The Witcher 3 had some big issues on the Xbox One. And pretty much every time anything happens with the PlayStation Network, be it hacks, DDoS, just crashing, server maintenance, which happens way too often on a paid subscription platform. Every time stuff like this happens, be it the glitches or stuff I just listed, the licenses get fucked up and people can't play games that they paid for, that they should have access to, despite some sort of shitty server glitch or hack or crash or whatever it is. So it really just goes to show that in situations like this, a whole digital distribution, digital future just is not ready to happen until it's a vicious circle, really. The developers and the publishers don't want to trust the consumers, even though the consumers spend their hard-earned money, And because of that, they will do stuff, be it whatever, online check-ins or always online connected games. Look at EA's new Need for Speed, for example. They'll do things like that, and consumers will lose confidence, and they get pissed off. And I know for me and a lot of other people, because of that, they lose confidence and they get pissed off at the publishers and developers, which in turn causes the publishers and developers to do what they did originally again. And then it happens, it's a circle. It's a 2-point circle. You could argue it's like a game of Pong. It's just going back and forth, back and forth. So, I mean, I know there's other ways around it. I mean, if in the unlikely event that EA ever goes under, I mean, EA is obviously probably, I don't know, the biggest, or I'd say they're probably the second biggest publisher with like development studios and all as well. So I'd say they're probably the second biggest. So if for some reason they were ever to stop supporting Origin, which I don't see happening, but who knows? I mean, what's going to happen to all your digital games? I have a couple of games on Origin at the moment. What's going to happen for those? You know, am I going to be able to play them offline? Who knows? But this comes back as well as Steam is obviously the biggest digital distribution front on the PC. Well, not just on the PC, but just in general, it's clearly the biggest online digital distribution service. And what Steam have said is that for some reason, if Steam ever goes under, that they will make available all the necessary files, cracks, well, you could call them cracks, all the necessary files, executables, whatever you want to call them, to be able to play your game, burn them to disks, store them to hard drives, just so you could play the games you paid for after Steam becomes defunct. Now, I like that idea personally, but what I do think what might happen is if Steam ever does get to that point, I could see some of the other companies, the developers or other publishers that have put games on Steam, saying no, or trying to weasel out of it somehow, going back on it. Maybe Valve can only guarantee it with their own Valve developed games. Who knows? But I mean, even Steam and Origin go down fairly well. Origin gets more shit than it deserves, really. I've had almost nothing but brilliant experiences with Origin, short of one time. But Steam, I know Steam goes down, or at least loses connection to the server, while everyone else's internet still works and everything else on the internet still works. And I mean, I know I've been kicked off single player games that weren't online, that weren't mandatory online only. I wasn't using an accessed online feature, but just because my Steam client lost connection to its server, because of that, I've got kicked out. So we're not ready for it yet, and until someone manages to show the first part of trust, it's just not going to happen. So it can't really be us, because consumers are being fucked over left, right, and center. So it's going to have to be one of the publishers or developers, and we all know how stubborn and greedy they are. So the chances of it happening are very, very minuscule. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. It's unfortunate to all those people at Desura, Bad Juju, and all the other companies and studios within the Bad Juju family. It's unfortunate for all those. I hope they all get, maybe start up their own thing or get jobs somewhere else, but I hope it all goes well for them anyway. So this video's kind of run on a bit longer than I expected. I talk a lot, I know, I'm sorry. Especially, it's really just, I'm just so passionate about games, and it's my favorite hobby, so it burns my bollocks to see all this and hear all this and know how everyone is treated, and it's just crap, and something's got to give, really. And I'm hopefully providing what I think is alternate choices, if you will. But anyway, the video's gone on way too long, so let me know in the comment section below what you think about the Desura service. Actually, I'm curious to see what people have to say about the Desura service and how it's changed over the last little while, and just what they think about an online digital distribution future. because like I said, I went over it a few times now. I don't think we're ready, and I want to hear other people's opinions on it. So let me know all that in the comment section below. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter because my new series is up and running on there. All the details will be in the description. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the rest of the videos in my channel.